We're here today at the Pierce Willet's house, which was founded in 1744 and always has been and will be protected by Artisan Security, a well-known name brand.
Now if you follow me, we're going to go in the back and check out some agricultural technology of the day.
Alright, so back in the day they didn't have cars, so what they would do is they would use this mounting block to help them mount their horses. So they would climb up here and mount their horses.
So this is your average outhouse in the 18th century. This was before indoor plumbing, so it was really your only option. It was awful in the winters and quite awful in the summers. Spring and autumn it was also pretty awful, but it got the job done.
In the 19th century, this field used to be used for farming, and farmers grew peonies and mushrooms, and mainly this field, the products used from this field were used for subsistence farming, and not many were used for industrial output.
Alright, back in the day, the Pierce Willis family brought mushrooms to the Concord Township, and they made them in the houses along here. And what they would do is they would put the spores inside glass bottles, and then once they were ready, they would just smash the bottles and take them out.
In the 19th century, they put animals onto belts, kind of like a treadmill, and they would attach a wheel to it, and then they could generate power from the wheel rotating to grind things like corn.
Alright, so this was the hog scraper, and after the farmer had killed his pigs, they would take it and they would rub their pig to get all the hair off of it.
Hello, this is the corn sheller, and here we have our ear of corn. What they used to do is there used to be this hand crank, obviously. You put the corn right in, you crank it, and it shucks the kernels right off, so you're ready to eat them. Over here we have the dirt scooper, and what they used to do is, this is another horsepower machine, made the farmer's life a lot easier, and the man used to be in the back, pulling like this, the horse would just plow right through, and he used to dig it right in, and that's how he scooped the dirt.
These are ice tongs, and over outside they would take water, and when it was frozen they'd chunk it, and they use these tongs to lift it, put it in a shed, and then transport it back with the tongs for when they needed ice.
This here is a forklift that lifts hay up, and it's a mobilization technique to move the hay from the center of the barn to one side to another, and it's powered by horses.
This is a scythe cradle that was used to collect wheat and barley out on the fields, and a man would take it and it would push it all to one side, and you can dump it and place it where you need it out in the fields.
Here is a scale to measure the weight of different crops, and it was used to determine the price of crops, much as weights are used today to measure crops.
Hand plows back then, and that was a lot of hard work. But then once they invented the horse-powered plow, then things became much easier since they didn't have to use it by hand.
So this is an asparagus buncher, and what the farmers would do was they would cut the stalks, and they would put them on in here, and then they would put their asparagus in, clamp it, and they would cut the extra off and then tie it, and then they were bunched.
Now we are where people would cook everything. Back here you have the small baking oven where all baked goods would be made. And then this is the entire walk-in stove. Back here you have this small trammel, and it would allow them to raise and lower the food depending on how they would like it cooked. And then here you have what's called a tin baking oven. It was a reflector, and it was like an 18th century toaster.
Growing popular in the 1860s, this innovative piece of technology was the kerosene lamp that was used to see in the barn at night, or just times when there was little light in the day.
This is the typical clothing that women used to wear, and they made them by themselves by using the spinning jenny. Okay, so women used to use textiles, and they used the spinning jenny to make textiles into clothing.
One thing this door shows is that the average size of an American male has changed over the years. Clearly, it's not high enough.
Here we are with the man-made pump. Now, as you would assume, this was naturally, this used to be outside. Now they moved it in when they started renovating. But what they used to do is they used to have a pump or a system that would bring everything up, and it was called a pitcher pump. And what would happen if there was any excess water, it would flush right outside, and that's how they would make sure there was no overflowage of water.
So the daily life for a man would be, the man would wake up, he would go out, milk the cows and feed them and feed the animals, and then basically for the rest of the day he would tend the crops, and sometimes he would have to go sell his crops in a market. And for a woman on a small farm like this, they would work alongside the man, and they would also be in charge of cooking food for the family and sewing.